Well, hello everyone. How's it going? Thank you so much for joining us for I'm Not Your Superwoman. This is such a fun conversation and powerful and important conversation about survivors, about Black women, and about how we choose to live our lives and the choices that we make. It's super exciting to have some powerful women on the line with us. Super excited. And we're going to let them greet us. We've got Reverend Tammie Denyse, co-founder of Carrie's Touch, and a 16-year breast cancer survivor. Am I quoting the right number?
You got the right number, baby.
Yes. Tammie, why don't you greet us?
Hello, good people. How are you? I am excited to be here, and I am still settling because, you know, the internet just was trying to not let me be great. So we're here. Yes. Thank you, Kathleen, for allowing us an opportunity to connect with the people tonight.
Phenom. Well, I am super excited that we are doing this and excited to be invited into this space. Our other magical guest we have tonight is Dr. Annette Stanton, UCLA Departments of Psychology and Psychiatry, Biobehavioral Sciences, and the Johnson Comprehensive Cancer Center. Woo, that is a title.
Well, a beast for you.
Thank you. You can call me Annette. I'm honored to be here, and I'm looking forward to this next time with y'all.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And also, those who are out here watching, feel free, you can put comments in, and we are happy to answer your questions, answer your comments that you might have towards the end. And we're super excited to do this. So we're going to be doing this every week. We're hoping to open more of a dialogue around the idea of the strong Black woman and how we can reframe it, how we can reimagine it, and how we can create a space that helps you deal with being a survivor of breast cancer without the need to do it all on your own, right?
So we're going to Kathleen, before we move forward, I mean, hello, don't act like you're chopped liver. Thank you for hosting us tonight. We have the amazing, the one and only Kathleen Meredith of Fat Girls Dance, a worldwide renowned movement around body positivity and to acknowledge that people who are not of a certain size are still amazing. They're still, we are still beautiful. We still get to dance, and we still get to love our bodies completely as they are. So thank you, Kathleen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammie. I'm well aware that I am lit, but when I am in the presence of this platform, I am so honored that I get to take up space and speak with people who have done some amazing things, I think, to for Black women, for healing, for changing the dynamic and the conversation, really shifting the paradigm. And so a lot of times I forget to introduce myself because I'm like, yo, I was really amazing stuff right now. So I am so impressed with the people I'm going live with right now. So thank you so much.
Girl, you know how I get down. Just kick back. Let's just have a conversation, have a little bit of fun, talk about Black women, talk about breast cancer. I'm making my tea calm. Look, I got a up. Can you believe that?
I got this water.
I love it. I see where you are. Annette, what are you drinking tonight?
Water.
Yeah.
Oh, no tea.
No tea tonight. No.
Okay. That's okay. We'll keep you.
We're gonna roll with it.
All right, Kathleen, do your thing, babe.
Yes, let's chat. Let's talk about the strong Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's talk about that for a second. We have been understood to be, the strong Black woman is a very, I'd say, normalized idea for us, right? Being strong, being able to handle a lot, the single Black woman, the strong church woman, the career woman. Strong Black woman is just our thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that something that should be shifted? Why are we hearing in modern times now that we're talking about it more and more, more therapists, more bloggers, more conversation when we start talking about mental health and actually physical health? How come we are seeing a shift or someone saying, maybe we should re-examine the strong Black woman thing? Why is it in a lot of ways dangerous?
Good question. I think I'll step in and ask and jump in and answer first, and then I will let Annette pick up the rear. I don't know so much about why other people are looking at the strong Black woman concept as problematic, but I will say that when I was completing my master's degree, I had to do a final thesis project, and I did it on breaking the Superwoman syndrome of trying to be all things to all people all the time perfectly while suffering alone in silence. And I wanted to raise awareness around breast cancer in the Black community. And I, targeted churches. Hey, let me go into these churches and talk to these sisters and raise awareness about breast cancer. And what I experienced was there was real life happening. As gung-ho as I was to be a survivor, as gung-ho as I was to be in their presence and to have these conversations, there was another element that was hugely taking place and creating a barrier between these women having the breast cancer conversation and just trying to live. So I personally started examining what that looked like. And I got my hands on Too Heavy a Yoke by Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes, who is also a breast cancer survivor. But she talked about the weight that Black women are burdened with carrying on a regular basis and how it impacts every aspect of our lives. And that's when I started, just kind of examining this entire concept and how is it bad? How is it good? And what do we do about that in the breast cancer space? So that's kind of my foundation for it. Annette, you want to chime in?
Sure. When Tammie contacted me to try to put something together to really learn about the experience of Black women diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm a researcher. I'm a professor at UCLA. And my background is psychology. I got my PhD in clinical psychology and health psychology. And Tammie contacted me about this, and I had heard of the strong Black woman concept because it's in our research literature, and knew a little bit about it, but didn't know a whole lot. And so I read Too Heavy a Yoke and started reading the research too. And I also don't think it's necessarily that it's problematic. The strong Black woman concept makes a huge amount of sense when you consider the history of Black women in the country. And there was a moment when Tammie was giving me an example. And she said, I was talking to one of my, Tammie was saying this, I was talking to one of my white colleagues. And Tammie was talking at that time about the Black Superwoman syndrome, which is about the same thing. And she said, and Tammie, you said to your friend, you were explaining the concept, and she said, well, gosh, don't we all do that? Aren't we all superwomen? And her intention was really a good one, but you then said to her, and I heard really clearly, if you didn't act as a strong Black woman, and if you didn't completely sacrifice for others, and if you didn't put others' needs before your own always, if you had the experience that you could be beaten, sold, or killed for that.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah.
And it's not the white women's experience. And so that just made me, one, understand more, but also get so curious about how Black women navigate when they're diagnosed with something that could be life-threatening to them.
Yeah.
And so that sort of got me started. So I'm not sure it's problematic, but there are facets of it that could hold women back. There also are some really incredible strengths that can move women forward during their experience of breast cancer.
Right.
We'll maybe talk about those, but I said it.
That's perfect though, Annette, because that was our first connection. That was kind of in our first phone call when you were, I was interviewing you and you were interviewing me to find out if there was going to be a match for us to be able to take this project forward. And like you said, that was a critical and pivotal turning point for you and also for my friend, who's still my friend, whom I still love dearly, but it was an understanding that Black women and white women don't have the same experience, even if they're having the same experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so interesting when you're talking about a marginalized people and you're saying, well, I feel that way too. And it's like, I'm glad you empathize on a human level,
right?
But you can't really feel it in that way. I had this when I was working with plus size women, and I hear from so many women of different sizes, well, I feel that way too. And I'm like, well, you would, because 91% of women hate their bodies. So I understand how you feel that way, but you've never had to live in my body, so you don't get it. You feel it, but you don't get it. And so I understand that distinction because I feel like women a lot of times do feel the same way, but there is a line, it's a very important line,
Yeah.
And it's well intentioned. It's a Me Too reaction.
Yeah.
So you can sort of get the intention, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same at all.
Yeah. So what I wanted to get, if you guys could list some specifics. If I'm a strong Black woman and I'm coming to you and I'm saying, well, my strength, that's me, that's what I got. I need my strength. And you're kind of asking me to re-examine it and or put it down. What is your response to that Black woman?
My response is, I'm not asking you to put it down. I'm asking you to examine it and find out where it's serving you well and where it might be problematic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because I think for me, I don't know that had I not been a strong Black woman, that I would have survived my journey. My journey was hard. It was very, very, very hard. And, part of the conversation that we have here, we have to be careful because we don't want, eventually, ultimately, we want to invite women who have been diagnosed with Black women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer to partake in the survey. So we want to allow space for them to have their full experience, both as a breast cancer survivor and in recounting their experience on the survey. So I'm not going to go full out, because if I do, I'm going to cross a line that's not going to help us on the other end. But I just will say that, I would never ask a Black woman to completely remove the strong Black woman banner or the cape, so to speak, because it can be a very, 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 very good thing. And it's part of our DNA.
Sure.
Right? It's who we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. I like that. Annette, do you have something to add to that?
No. Tammie said it perfectly.
Well, so let me just do this real quick. I'm playing with lighting also because I told y'all I'm still settling, right? So let me just say this thing about Annette. Annette, one of the many things that I respect about Annette is that she comes in with this. I mean, y'all Google her. She is that chick, okay? You Google her and you'll find out that, okay, this humble woman with all of these credentials and all of these accolades just comes in and says, hey, just call me Annette. That's where she's been from that moment. But one of the things I love about her is that she's clear she's not a black woman, and she's clear she's not a strong black woman. And to date, I think, what are we 4 years into this relationship?
Yep.
4 years in, she has never crossed that line. I've never encountered a white woman where I've got a relationship and we are talking about black-white relations and they don't cross that line.
Yeah.
To try to speak for, or, she doesn't ever say, I understand or I get it. None of that. So, her response to me is kind of an example for how we continue to cultivate black-white relationships as we come together. It's not, a separation. We get to come together side by side as sisters, moving toward a common goal of disbanding, dismantling, and disrupting the status quo so that we can really, really, really affect some positive changes systemically.
Yes.
To be able to serve black women with breast.
Yes.
Black women with breast. I say all the time, if you serve black women adequately, by default, every other woman who will ever be diagnosed with breast cancer will have a better opportunity.
Oh God,
better experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And if somebody doesn't agree with me, fight me.
Yeah. What you said about finding an ally and an advocate that doesn't, make you say something like, why'd you say that?
Right.
That kind of thing. I think it's so important.
But sorry.
Go ahead.
But it's also true that I know that I can completely trust Tammie to when I suggest something, about the research, about what we might want to do for the research. I really trust Tammie to tell me, let's think about it differently, or what about this? Or, and there's a good example of that. Our first step in this research was in Project Soar, which stands for Speaking Our African American Realities, is we decided we wanted to just talk to women. Talk to black women about their experience. And that would be the first thing. And that made complete sense to me. Mm-hmm. And so I was going on about, okay, well, typically, it'd be, if we do that, I think that's a great idea. It'd typically be like an hour and a half. And so Tammie said, nope. Nope, gotta be at first. I think you said 8 hours, but I think we ended up said nope, gotta be at least 4 hours.
Yeah,
because there's part of the experience that's really important to do. And it was also true that when we did what we called the gatherings, and that's also Tammie's word, researchees would call it focus groups, but that's not what these things were. And we also came to the decision that I shouldn't be there.
I want to unpack that a little bit. That was actually the direction that I was going into. So tell us about Project Soar, the origin, and then I do want to know about these gatherings that and that couldn't be at, and the sacredness, the importance of that, right? So let's unpack that for just a little bit. Either one of you can
go for it.
Go on, well, so as Annette just said, we wanted to create an experience. We wanted, what we know is that Black women are underrepresented in research. What we know is our history plays a huge part. Our traumatic history plays a huge part in medical professionals and Black patient relationships. What we know is that whether a Black person in the community completely understands what the Tuskegee study was about or not, what they know is Black people died. There were some injustices that happened. And what the first thing they'll say is, hey, I don't want to be a guinea pig.
Yeah.
Right? So what we needed to do was we needed to create a safe space. We needed to create a space that was going to feel good to them so that they could feel that they could trust the space even more than they could trust me. And if we had only done this in Sacramento, it would be like, oh, that's easy because folks trust Tammie. Well, we went throughout the state of California, and there were women that I didn't know and had never met before. So we had to create the space that was safe, that was loving, that was welcoming, that was inviting. And one thing that we know for sure as Black people, if you're in an all Black space and a white person comes into that space, it immediately changes the dynamics. And if we were going to capture what we sought to capture in that experience, Annette couldn't be there.
Sure.
And again, one of the many things that I love about her, not once did she goes, oh, well, I need to, because as a UCLA researcher, she could have said, well, no, I have to be in the room. But she didn't say that. She says, okay, well, what we'll do is we will hire a Black woman that'll come in as a representative for UCLA, but she also fits in the space. And the other thing that was clear, it was that the UCLA was not going to be the person asking the questions. It was going to be me. Because if we're making this a community-based research, we got to lead in community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll pause there. Annette?
Yeah, I think that it was really clear that that's what needed to happen. And so it made perfect sense. I think that having, Tammie, you are a really powerful woman. And I knew meeting you that this was something I wanted to be a part of, and I wanted to learn. And you came in with an idea to talk about, to figure out the strong Black woman. And then we worked, what we have, like 11 days or something to put in an idea to the California Breast Cancer Research Program about what we were proposing to do. And then we had some time to actually do the research proposal and that sort of thing. So Tammie, Tammie's the foundation in the community, and I feel like I'm just taking your lead. And I can put things into researchEase. I can figure out what might work from that perspective. But if it's not grounded in the community, then it's not worthwhile. And it's also not worthwhile if it's like a researcher coming in, doing their research, and then leaving. And it was really important to both of us that not happen. And then we also were able to get some more funding from the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and we launched.
Yeah, I think it's so important, the recognition that we're not going to get the data we want unless it's in this certain environment. And I personally have never heard of, research being that specific and intentional and taking into consideration how a culture actually feels. You want numbers and information from these people, but if it's not presented in a certain way, it's going to be skewed, and you're not going to get it because there's other things like intimidation and fear and lack of trust that are going to shift the numbers. And so I love the recognition of the humanity that is necessary to get the research that you need. I think that is it shouldn't be such a unique approach, but it really is. And haven't been a part of that many research projects, but the sterility of it, how it can get really just sterile, and, you kind of lose the fact that you're doing this for humans, and humans, skew the research. So it's like you have to kind of create an environment where you're going to get the numbers and information you need. I think that's brilliant and so important. Super important.
And you know what, Kathleen? That's why from the beginning, I have said this is history. We are making her story with this project. And what I love is, as a researcher, Annette, initially, she wouldn't say that this was historical because the understanding is, well, there is research out there about Black women and breast cancer. And I go, it is. But it's not this research. Yeah. And we try to look at the voice of the woman, the patient. It's not out there, not in breast cancer, not for Black women, specifically considering the patient and where she is on her journey. So, part of, why we're here tonight is to make sure that those who are watching us understand that we are creating a movement that centers Black women and their voice and their experiences in breast cancer research.
I love it. It. So where's Project Soar? Excuse me. Where is Project Soar right now? And let's talk about phase 2, this phase 2 that you guys are in.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Annette.
All right. So we had three gatherings, and they were tremendously meaningful. I was sad that I couldn't be there, but we were able to understand. We were able to listen to the gatherings, and they were so powerful. And right now we're doing what's called qualitative coding, so we can do the analysis and begin to get the findings out. Phase 2 is a survey that we launched really recently, and it's an online survey. We can also do it paper and pencil, but almost all women are doing it online. And it's for any Black woman who has been diagnosed with breast cancer any time since diagnosis in the United States. And we're especially interested in California because of our funding, but all over in the United States. And it asks about a lot of experiences that Black women have, from their sense of what we call the strong Black woman concept, to racial pride, to sense of meaning and purpose and spirituality, to their breast cancer experience specifically and how they were told about the diagnosis, what it was like going through treatment, and then some questions about feelings and fatigue and cognitive problems, and so it asks a lot of questions. And I have to say one thing, some of them, if you take part with us, you'll find that some of the questions are repetitive. You'll find that some women take the survey in a pretty short amount of time, 30 minutes. Some women take 2 hours. There's a lot of spaces where you can write in your experience, and then there are a lot of what we might call standard questions, and then there are questions that we created. And so it takes some time, it takes some concentration, you can take breaks. You'll find that a few of the questions probably are repetitive, and that's because that's important for the research part of it, because those are what we call validated questionnaires. And so that's where we are right now. We're getting women to take part.
And what you're saying is,
Kathleen, before you ask that question, I want to piggyback on what Annette just said in her perfect description of phase 2. When she talked about you can write in, because again, we want to hear from you. We want to hear about your experience. And so that's why it can take, women up to 2, 3, however long it, I think they've got about, a couple days to complete the survey before it'll kick them out. So they don't have to do it all in one sitting, but it's important for them to write their experiences. Yes, we can write questions about my experience, but Black women aren't a monolith, right? We all have varied experiences. I'll just stop there because I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to say, because I always have to catch myself. I'm like, because it's research, and what we don't want to do is have to throw it away because I done messed up and done said something I ain't supposed to be saying.
That makes total perfect sense. And should I ask a question that it's like, Kathleen, we can't ask that. Please shut me down.
I will defer to Annette. But this is why I jumped in, honestly. Because honestly, ladies, I want you to grab your favorite cup, grab you some tea. I've got some strawberries and cream, naturally decaffeinated tea tonight. I want you to grab your favorite blanket. This is my Lord's Prayer blanket that I love, that went to chemo with me. Every chemo, this is my Lord's Prayer blanket, right? I get cozy up in this blanket, and I want you to sit with us, because when Annette talked about us going back through the transcripts, I mean, it was a blessing in disguise that our transcription company was trash. And when we were reading the transcripts, when we were reading the transcripts, Kim Martin, who is a PhD student who is phenomenal, who we'll have to get on a Zoom to be able to actually talk about that experience of being in the room, right? The room where it happened. Oh, Kathleen.
You have a Hamilton sickness.
I had to get Hamilton in this. Right? But Kim Martin, who is phenomenal, who is the UCLA student, PhD student representative, was amazing. And I done lost my whole thought on Hamilton. On
your
Hamilton.
own fault. I don't even feel bad for you.
Oh man, Hamilton. But the transcription company being trash, because they were back. Kim and I would go, "That's not what she said. Where's this part?" Because it was an experience for us, and so we remember them. So what we had to do was we had to go back through the transcripts and listen to the audio of the experiences. And there would be some days we literally would spend 30 to 40 minutes just capturing one paragraph that a woman said, because we want to make sure that we are being careful to do the research on what these women are saying to us.
Yeah.
So, but what that did was that actually allowed Annette to come into the room with us, because she had only read it, and so she wasn't there, so she didn't know which parts were inaccurate and which parts were incomplete. But when we were going through that, and one of my favorite parts is from a participant who, when she was describing strong Black woman, she said, being a strong Black woman is we do and we do and we do and we keep on doing until we can't do anymore. Reading it felt one way. But when we heard it, when Annette heard it and the other team members heard it, I mean, it just takes your breath away, because you could hear the fatigue in her voice.
Sure.
You can hear every ounce of emotion. And that's what we're doing. We are treating this like it is a newborn baby, because it is.
Yeah. 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 I hear that, and I see that, and I connect with this so heavy. From the moment you ever told me about Project Soar, I was like, this is so necessary. I want to speak for a woman who may not feel like it's so necessary. So we have a certain amount of numbers and surveys that need to be done by a certain time. I'm a strong Black woman. I'm a survivor. I'm a perfect candidate to take this survey. Why? Why is this important? Why is this research important? Why is this groundbreaking thing that that the people on this live, we understand its importance? Can we break it down in its simplest terms, why it's important? And even Dr. Stanton, maybe you can speak to why it's important to the medical community. Why share your story, and why share it in this way? Why is this so pivotal?
Yeah, I'll start this one, Annette, and you pick it up on the back end. And she and I, we just tag team like bow. But I'll share this example. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer 16 years ago, and my oncologist came into my exam room, and he had looked at numbers and stats, and he looked at my pathology reports and all of those things. And he felt that there was a research study that I was a match for. So he came in, he was eager, excited. Hey, I found something that I think's really going to be good for you. Oh, great. What is it? It's a research study that you qualify for. And because you're premenopausal, I was 39 when I was diagnosed, okay? Because you're premenopausal, you qualify for this study. And I was like, oh, wow, what's it looking for? We're looking for a treatment that, I get a little nostalgic when I hear women that are on the treatment that I was part of the study for. And so he tells me about the study, and I say to him, I said, so how are Black women responding to this trial, this clinical trial? And he said, I don't know. And I said, unacceptable. How dare you walk into this room excited about a treatment plan for me as a Black woman, and you don't know how it impacts me? That's not okay.
No.
So if a woman comes to this research, Project Soar, asking why is it important, don't you want to know how the medication that you are being given to save your life affects people that look like you? Or you just want to grab some medication out of a bin full of people that don't look like you and deal with the side effects? Yeah, there's enough medicine out there to deal with all of the side effects, the 32 pages of possible side effects to the clinical trial that I was being asked to participate in. So I asked to speak to the researcher, and she scheduled a meeting with me. I said, you need to bring your lunch. This is 32 pages. This is my life.
Sure.
I'm going to need some answers on all 32 pages. It's almost like reading the terms and conditions when you sign on to a new computer or download an app. Nobody reads them.
Sure.
We just click accept. That's not what we're doing. We are reading the fine print.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's important for a woman who might ask why. Why should we participate in this research? And this is a pilot. This is just the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I what I love about you saying that is we talked about re-examining the strong Black woman at the beginning of this conversation. And if we re-examine it, why aren't we adding the well-informed Black woman? The woman who takes agency in her own life and her own health and co-laborers in her journey towards, healing. All of those are important ways that we can re-examine the strong Black woman. Not you're too tired, exhausted, and burned out to get the answers, but you are an active member of the answers, and things aren't just happening to you, but you have agency in that. I think that's such an important point, Tammie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Annette, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Sure. I think what we're trying to get to here is the fine print of women's experience. And that's what we want to hear. And if women decide not to take part, it's completely understandable. And at the same time, it keeps meaning that the voices are silenced. And so I have an example that that comes to mind immediately. Kathleen asked about the medical community, and so Tammie and I launched this project with an event at the African American Museum in Los Angeles, and I just had sort of an idea. I emailed our dean of the School of Medicine and asked if the dean might want to come. And I was surprised, because this was like what? It was
December 28th. This is during
December 28th. It was just, it was vacation. And so the dean responded, sure, I'd love to come and I'll bring my daughter. And the dean is a white woman. And so she came and we talked about the concept and we talked about Black women's experience. And there were several Black women there, and they talked. And when we finished, the dean I turned to me and she said, I had no idea. This has got to change. We have to understand. We have to understand who's coming in the door.
Yeah.
We have to understand Black women who are coming in the door and their experience, because we talked some about the medical system and not being heard in the medical system and not knowing how to negotiate it. And, Tammie, you see that she's very powerful, and she did come in and say, not acceptable. Well, a lot of women are not like Tammie. And so that's what we hope it'll bring the medical system. Both some understanding and then some changes in terms of how women are respected when they come in. When they first get a diagnosis or leading up to the diagnosis. So we're trying to really get to the fine print of women's experience, and we can only do that by asking women.
Yeah.
Asking women. And you know what? And I want to respond to that because I had, we just came out of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, interviews, sitting on panels is just, Kathleen, but I was on a panel for male breast cancer awareness. And I told the story about me going and challenging my oncologist about the treatment. And one of the physicians on the panel tried to minimize my experience by saying, well, you can do that when you have a rapport with the doctor and you have built a relationship. I said, no, you misheard me. This is my oncologist. This was my first visit with him. And I said, the difference is I was 39. I had 3 children, 2 of them in middle school. I wanted to live.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to hear all of the statistics about how I was going to die.
Sure.
I want to know, what are you going to do to help me live?
Right.
I want to see my children graduate from high school. I want to see my children graduate from college. I want to see my grandkids. What are you going to do to help me live? Don't come bring me a study you don't know anything about. And don't you try to minimize me, sir. Because I took control of my own breast cancer experience. And no,
Yeah.
everybody is not out there like me, which is why Carrie's Touch says we fight for women who will not, who cannot, and who do not know how to fight for themselves. I tell women I don't fear anybody but God. So if you have an issue with your oncologist or any medical professional, call me. I'll go with you. And we have fired top-notch surgeons, top-notch, well-regarded surgeons. Why? You might be well-regarded and you might be phenomenal, but you're not serving this Black woman adequately. And that is unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. And if there's not a willingness to open up the conversation of how we can shift relationships and how we can, you and I, Tammie, were talking about how there does seem to be a pushback in the medical community about this co-laboring or co-creating our treatment. Right. Because it's like, I have the degree, just do what I say. And I feel like for the most part, we as patients do that. We're like, okay, you just listen to what they say, forgetting that they're human, because they do have the degree. They do have more education. You're going to them to find out what the heck is going wrong with you. So there doesn't seem to be a space for agency and voice because we don't think that's our place. And that's across the board, breast cancer and everything else. And so I think it's what's really important about what Dr. Stanton said was this idea of, I don't know. One of the people I work with was talking about this past week with all the election mumbo jumbo and how a lot of people were upset by the amount of people knowing who our president was, still voting for him. And just this idea of, I can't believe there's so much hate in the world. I can't believe. And this woman who's white, she was like, well, I wasn't surprised. I can believe, I know. And she was like, maybe the death of the illusion gives space for an epiphany for us to realize we have a lot of work to do, And so, breaking down this illusion that, you're serving everybody in the medical community, maybe Project Soar is that epiphany. It's like, you're not, and this is why, and this is how, I think that's really, really important that we have more spaces where people are saying, oh, I didn't know that. Right. And from that, we can create a new narrative. I love the idea of that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to be careful when I talk about how I approached my breast cancer experience, because I do want to say that there are some amazing oncologists, there are some amazing primary care physicians, there are some amazing gynecologists, and so on and so forth down the road who are compassionate and passionate about their work. My oncologist, though he and I had that encounter when we began our relationship, he became part of family for me, and he trusted me and I trusted him, and together we came up with a treatment plan that was going to be right for me. And during the time, sometimes, his suggestions didn't work, but I trusted him enough to try them. Yeah. And sometimes if my spirit, we know we're spiritual beings, right? When our spirit just automatically feels that, I don't know. And I would say to him, I got to go pray on that. He respected me and say, okay, you got 24 hours to pray and then come back and let me know what your response is. And there were times that my response was no. Yeah. That's okay. We'll find something. But we were, just like Annette and I, we were co-laborers on this quest to save my life. And then, on a breast cancer journey, everybody is eager to get to that coveted 5-year mark. And what he said to me, with the type of cancer that you had, he said 5 is good, but we are striving for 10. So on my 10th anniversary, when I went into his office, we hugged, we cried, and he said, okay, now let's shoot for 15. But at 13, he broke up with me.
Well, what I love about that story that people don't understand is a pushback doesn't necessarily mean, I feel like we're so polarized, that we act like we can't have a conversation. I can't say, hey, I don't like that. hey, I don't want to do that. And
Right.
your doctor can be, I fight with my doctor all the time. He's a wonderful, lovely Black man. But sometimes I'll be like, who do you think you're talking to? He's like, you know what, Kathleen, we fight. And I'm fine with that. I haven't switched doctors. We just, that's how we do. So, I mean, sometimes you're like, I got to get out of here. But other times people act like you can't have a conversation.
Right.
I can't push back. The doctor can't push back, and us just kind of have a talk. No one has to dominate the other. It's just, let's just figure this out. It's my body, but you're the doctor. So together we have to figure this out.
We've got to figure it. And that is just perfect because of exactly what you said. So I don't want people to automatically go out there. If it's not your personality, you're going to walk into, you'll be like Arsenio Hall in Harlem Nights walking up to a gunfight with this little bitty pistol going, it's not going to work. Right.
Absolutely.
The objective is to build a bridge so that you can work together. However you build that bridge, the objective is not to get the doctor told. It's not to, it's not all that.
Yes.
That's not what it is. What it is you are becoming your own advocate in your journey. I know a sister who is fire, and she's about a year. She's less than a year into her process. This sister used to bring her computer with a Zoom call with 60 people on this Zoom call. But that was her process. And that worked for her. And she and her doctors navigated her journey that met her needs. And she is thriving. I got some people who say, I just don't know what to say. I'm so overwhelmed. I just don't know what to say. So what we do with Carrie's Touch, I know we're deviating a little bit, but what we do with Carrie's Touch is we sit down and we educate and empower that woman to walk into her doctor's office with her top 3 most important questions that she wants to ask. And so in our conversation, I don't play doctor, but there are, people go, am I going to die? And I say, yes, you're going to die. That's not the question you want to ask your doctor. The question you want to ask your doctor is, what is the most aggressive treatment plan available to save my life?
Yeah.
Give me options.
Yeah.
What are my options?
I think that's super important. We are running out of time. This has been such a powerful conversation. You guys, generally, all of my questions you somehow in some way answered. So I'll just ask the question I like to end in, which is resources, accounts that you follow, books that you love, authors that you love, podcasts, any sort of resources that you can give our listeners and share with them today.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Annette. I've talked a lot right now. I'll take a break.
No, you do not get to take a break because I am really a dinosaur. I read books. And so, Tammie, you're the one who knows this stuff.
Well, I think it's a collab because I think there are going to be some avid book readers. I read, I hate to say this, but you have some avid book readers, and then you have some people like me that we read because we are required to read. I have to read. I have to stay on top of, what is the current information and things like that. So we all absorb information differently. There are some people that love podcasts. There are some people that read books, movies, videos, and things like that. My inspiration, I can't take my phone. One of my inspirations is a sister who does, she's on YouTube, and I think, her Dr. Anita Wilson. I think she's oh Jesus, why am I not remembering her name right now? At any rate, she is on YouTube and she is a psychiatrist, therapist. Oh my gosh, this is not my friend right now. Because I was using my phone as my light. So that whole technical difficulty. But at any rate, I will put it out. But she's one of.
We can put it in the chat later.
Yeah, we'll put it in the chat.
Do you have any books? We read sometimes.
Right. Well, I was going to say, and what I read is, I try, so as a theologian, I'm a womanist. And so a womanist is a Black woman who looks at the Bible through the lens of a Black woman. And we engage and experience the text from that perspective. And sometimes, in the investigation of the text, we find that there are stories that are common in one capacity that are problematic in another. So I read a lot of womanist theologians. I read Dr. Renita Weems. I read Dr. Katie Cannon. Somebody that we are familiar with is, oh God, what's the color purple woman's name? Alice Walker, Dr. Alice Walker, In Search of My Mother's Garden. And it really is a beautiful journey through engaging Black women and our experiences, how we respond to them, how we can push up against the status quo. And then it's also inspiring and empowering to me. I watch things that make me feel good, right? Sometimes they have nothing to do with the Black woman. I am a Hamilton buff. And I'm going to incorporate Hamilton on any way. I love the symphony. I love the arts, any aspect of the arts, right? So I love going to museums. And I know with COVID, we can't do that as much anymore. But, and I enjoy intimate sister circles because I want everybody's voice to be heard, to have an opportunity to share their experiences. And when the circle gets too big, we sometimes overlook our quieter sisters who you have to call on to share their story.
Yeah.
Right? So I like those, and I'm actually an introvert. Forget the head wrap, forget the bright lipstick, forget all this. I'm an introvert. I like being alone. I like being by myself. I like no background noise, just being in the quiet. And that is a place that on a spiritual level, I can connect with my higher power, who is God, who is, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. And I get that feeling of that warm hug that gives me that peace that surpasses all understanding that those of us who follow the Christian faith, or I like to say followers of Jesus, because man, Christianity, that's a whole nother episode. But as followers of Jesus, to be able to find that comfort, and that's what helped me through my journey, and me and God fought. God, what are you doing? You haven't had an experience until you have had chemotherapy hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother experience. I say often, I never feared that I was going to die. But when I got chemotherapy hemorrhoids, I begged God to take my life. I called my inner circle. I said, y'all plan the funeral. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. But my inner circle showed up because I allowed them to show up and to love me through that difficulty. You good with somebody who will sit. This is real talk, right? Who will sit on a toilet. I'm sitting on the toilet. She's on the ground, pouring warm water into the sitz bath to give me relief, from these crazy hemorrhoids that I had never had any experience with. But how many Black women would allow somebody to come into the bathroom with them, sit on the floor while they're sitting on a toilet? And that's what breaking down and dismantling the negative side of that strong Black woman.
Yeah.
That's what it does. And simultaneously, it shows up as the strong Black woman. Yeah.
I love that. Dr. Stanton, do you have books, final thoughts? She's like, no.
I love her. She gets the final. Completely.
It's time. We are so grateful for this sacred space, for this conversation, for the information that was given during this hour. We hope that you come back for I'm Not Your Superwoman. We have more guests, more conversation, and we're super excited to share this space with you. Dr. Stanton, thank you for your time. Reverend Tammie, thank you for your time. And we will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye.
Bye.